So take a second right now and just knock on the desk in front of you.
Or, grip the steering wheel if you're driving.
Right, exactly. Just feel how incredibly solid it is. I mean, you can feel the resistance, the texture, all of it.
It's undeniably there. It's a real physical thing.
Yeah. And we are basically conditioned from birth to view our entire world through this really strict binary lens. Like, we divide absolutely everything into zeros and ones.
We really do.
Right. In our minds, a zero is just absolute nothingness, like a complete empty void.
And one is, physical, tangible reality.
It's the desk you just knocked on. It's success or failure, black or white.
Up or down. I mean, it is the most comforting way to navigate daily life, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
The human brain just loves clean categories. We want the safety of knowing that a thing either permanently exists or it just doesn't exist at all. It keeps the world predictable.
But what if that predictability is just a massive illusion? What if the most important fundamental aspect of reality doesn't live at the zero? And it certainly doesn't live at the one.
That is the big question.
Right. Like, what if the actual truth of the universe is the wild, unstructured space between 0 and 1? A state of just, like, limitless, chaotic possibility.
Where things aren't locked into being a solid object, but they aren't nothing either.
Exactly.
When you start looking at that space in between, the rigid walls of how we perceive time, space, and even our own identities, they just completely melt away.
It's a trip.
It really is. It is a very disorienting place to explore, but it is exactly the space where two drastically different worlds unexpectedly collide.
Okay, let's unpack this because we are diving into an incredibly fascinating set of materials today for our deep dive. The source material is grouped under the title The Quantum Void.
It's a brilliant collection.
It really is. We are looking at this right, but we are chasing down one specific core question today. Is the ancient Buddhist concept of Śūnyatā, which translates roughly to emptiness, actually describing the exact same physical phenomenon as quantum superposition?
And maybe even more wild, can the raw computing power of modern quantum computers actually prove this ancient spiritual philosophy mathematically?
Which is just insane to think about, but to even approach that overlap, we have to completely shatter your standard everyday definition of nothingness.
Yeah, because when you hear the word emptiness, your brain immediately pictures a vacuum. You picture like a dark, completely empty room in outer space.
Yeah.
A literal zero.
Just a black void.
Exactly. But in Mahayana Buddhism, if you view Sunyata as a zero or a dark void, you have completely missed the point.
Right, because if it was just a blank, dead slate, nothing could ever grow from it.
Precisely. Shunyata actually translates closer to void of self-nature.
Void of self-nature, okay.
Yeah, the core proposition here is that absolutely nothing in the universe has a permanent, independent, built-in essence.
Like nothing is a fixed thing.
Right. Think about a giant oak tree. We look at it and say, that is a tree. It is a singular solid thing.
Sure.
But if you take away the soils, the tree dies. Take away the rain, the sunlight, the microscopic fungi, and the dirt, the tree ceases to exist.
So it's totally dependent on its environment.
Exactly. The tree doesn't have an independent treeness. It only exists temporarily because an unimaginably complex assembly of interconnected factors all came together at this specific moment.
Wow, okay. So it's an ongoing event, not a permanent object. Nothing is permanently a one. It's just holding that tree shape for, like, a cosmic second.
And what's fascinating here is how seamlessly that ancient realization mirrors the absolute foundation of quantum mechanics, which is quantum superposition.
This is where it gets crazy.
It really does. Because when physicists study reality down at the smallest possible level, like subatomic particles, electrons, they find that before a particle is actively observed or measured, it doesn't exist as a tiny solid billiard ball in a fixed location.
It's not a tiny piece of gravel.
No, not at all. It is not locked in as a 0 or a 1. It exists as a cloud of probability.
A cloud of probability.
Yeah, it is essentially everywhere and nowhere all at once, existing in multiple overlapping states. It only has the potential to be in a specific place.
Okay, I want to make sure we are really visualizing this. So is it like a lump of wet clay that hasn't been sculpted yet?
Oh, that's a great way to think about it.
Because it's not nothing, right? It's not an empty void. It's just pure, raw potential waiting for the right interconnected factors, like the pressure of the sculptor's hands, the speed of the wheel, the water, to force it to become something specific, like a mug or a bowl.
The unsculpted clay captures the mechanics of it perfectly. Because it is void of a fixed identity, because it isn't a mug yet, it possesses the infinite potential to become anything.
That makes total sense.
Now, to truly appreciate how radical Sunyata is, you have to contrast it with other major ancient philosophies. Take the classic Hindu concept of Brahman.
Okay, how does that one work?
That worldview is entirely top-down. It posits that there is one ultimate divine cosmic mind, and our messy physical world is essentially an illusion being dreamed up or projected by that single original source.
Okay, so it's like a single projector at the back of a movie theater casting an image onto a blank screen. There's a central source of truth.
Exactly. But Śūnyatā, much like the quantum mechanics we study today, argues that there is no projector.
There's no guy in the booth.
Right. There is no central fixed core to reality at all. It is a vast, decentralized, completely interconnected web of relationships. There's no underlying true substance hiding behind the curtain.
Wow.
In fact, Mahayana philosophy takes it even further and warns that even the concept of emptiness itself is empty.
Wait, what? Emptiness is empty?
Yeah, you can't turn Śūnyatā into your new god. You can't cling to the idea of emptiness as a permanent truth because the concept itself is just a human description of how things relate to one another.
That is just brilliant. You try to find the absolute center of the onion, you peel away all the layers of reality, and you just end up with empty hands.
It's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people.
I mean, it naturally creates a massive problem for us, right? If the fundamental nature of the universe is just this fluid, unsculpted cloud of probability, this interconnected web of potential, how do we end up with the incredibly solid, rigid, and let's be honest, often highly stressful reality that we wake up to every single day?
Right. How does the cloud become the desk?
Yeah. How does the fluid wave become the desk I just knocked on?
Well, this is where we introduce the observer.
Mm-hmm.
In quantum physics, there is a verified, deeply unsettling scientific phenomenon known as wave function collapse.
Wave function collapse.
Yes, a probability wave, that fluid cloud of potential, only becomes a solid, measurable, fixed particle when an observer measures it.
Okay, we should break down how physicists actually know that, because it honestly sounds like magic, but it's based on the double slit experiment, right?
Yeah, the double slit experiment is the absolute smoking gun of quantum mechanics.
Walk us through it.
So imagine firing tiny electrons at a solid wall that has two vertical slits cut into it. When physicists don't actively watch the electrons go through the slits, the electrons act like a wave of water.
We ripple.
Exactly. They ripple through both slits at the exact same time, interfering with each other and leaving a wave-like pattern on the detector screen behind the wall.
Ah.
They are in that fluid state of limitless potential.
Okay.
But, and this is the crazy part, the moment the physicist places a camera or a measuring device right at the slits to observe exactly which slit the electron goes through, the wave completely collapses.
Just from looking at it.
Just from measuring it.
Yeah.
The electron starts acting like a solid little bullet, going through only one slit or the other. The mere act of looking, of introducing a measuring device, forces the boundless possibilities to collapse into a single, defined physical reality.
That is wild. The act of asking the universe a highly specific question forces the clay to instantly take a shape.
Beautifully put. Now take that exact mechanism and look at Buddhism. In the Mahayana framework, the human mind acts as that quantum measuring device.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The natural state of the universe is flowing like that waves, constantly shifting, entirely interdependent. But the human mind almost never just lets the wave flow. We constantly apply a concept called upadana.
Upadana.
Yeah, which translates to craving, grasping, or deep attachment.
So our psychological desire for things to be a certain way, our need to control the outcome, acts just like that camera at the double slits.
That is the exact mechanism at play. When you fiercely crave a specific outcome, or when you grasp desperately onto a specific identity, your mind collapses that boundless fluid emptiness into fixed, assumed states.
You literally lock it down.
Yes, you take a beautiful flowing reality and you lock it down into rigid, heavy concepts. The probability cloud collapses into the heavy weight of my suffering, or my stressful career, or my property.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I have to push back a little bit on behalf of anyone listening right now.
Please do.
Are we suggesting that human emotion and human attachment literally physically alter the atomic structure of reality? Like, if I'm in a terrible grasping mood, am I physically changing the quantum mechanics of my living room?
That is the million-dollar question.
Or is this observer effect being used as like a psychological metaphor for how we mentally construct our personal experience of reality?
So the texts are pointing to a profound architectural parallel, rather than claiming your bad mood is physically moving carbon atoms across your kitchen floor.
Got it. Okay, that's a relief.
Physics is describing the collapse of our material potential. Buddhism is describing the collapse of our experiential potential. The underlying math of how reality operates is identical in both realms.
You have a wave of possibilities, and an interaction forces it into a single state.
Exactly. And the goal of a bodhisattva, which is an enlightened being in this tradition, is absolutely not to run away from that reality or try to hide in the zero of a dark void.
They aren't trying to just blank their minds and disappear into a vacuum.
Far from it. The goal is to uncollapse those attachments. A bodhisattva learns to live fully and vibrantly in the physical world. They interact with the ones, they work, they form relationships.
But they do it differently.
Right, because their mind remains completely aware of and connected to that boundless field of emptiness, the zero. They participate in the theater of daily life without ever fully believing the props on the stage are permanent, solid things.
Okay, so if we understand that our minds are constantly collapsing our perception of reality through our daily cravings and our attachments, we need to look at the actual physical matter that makes up the universe.
The physical stuff itself.
Yeah, what is the physical stuff before our minds grab onto it? And there is a highly famous ancient text in our material that maps this out.
Yes, the Heart Sutra. It contains what is arguably the most famous line in all of Mahayana Buddhism. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form.
It's so poetic.
For centuries, Western scholars read that and thought it was just beautiful, poetic mysticism. A nice metaphor. But when you look at it through the lens of modern quantum fields, it is a literal, physical description of reality.
Okay, let's break that down piece by piece. Let's start with the first half. Form is emptiness.
Right. When we examine physical matter, what the sutra calls form, down at the atomic level, science tells us that it is more than 99.99% empty space.
Which is hard to even picture.
It is. If you took the nucleus of an atom and made it the size of a marble and placed it in the center of a massive football stadium, the electrons would be tiny gnats buzzing around the very highest seats in the bleachers.
And everything in between.
Everything in between is just empty space.
Which begs the question, if the desk I knocked on earlier is 99% empty space, why doesn't my hand pass right through it? Why does it feel so undeniably solid?
Because of the Pauli exclusion principle and electromagnetic repulsion.
Ah, okay. Science words.
Basically, the electron clouds in the atoms of your hand repel the electron clouds in the atoms of the desk. What you feel as a solid desk is entirely an illusion created by repelling energy fields.
That's wild.
Matter is not a fixed, solid thing. It is just a temporary expression of interacting forces in a vacuum. So, quite literally, form is emptiness.
That is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Okay, and the second half, emptiness is form.
That is where quantum field theory comes in. That seemingly empty space in the football stadium, that 99% vacuum, isn't actually empty at all. Just like Śūnyatā isn't a dead void.
It's not a literal zero.
Right. In physics, a vacuum is a state of maximum potentiality. It is humming with unseen energy. Quantum fields are constantly fluctuating, and virtual particles are perpetually popping in and out of existence.
Just waiting to become something.
They are ready to manifest into permanent physical matter the very moment the right energetic factors trigger them. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the modern physicists working at the Large Hadron Collider, and the ancient monks meditating in mountain caves thousands of years ago, they are describing the exact same mechanics of reality.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring this right down to earth for you, the listener. Think about the physical space you are in right now. It feels incredibly permanent.
It does.
And the stressors associated with your life, like the emails backing up in your inbox, the financial pressure, the tension in a relationship, they feel like incredibly solid, heavy, immovable brick walls blocking your path.
Very heavy.
But if you deeply internalize the physical reality that your environment is quite literally 99% empty space, and the spiritual reality that the situations in your life are purely a temporary manifestation of causes and conditions, I mean, it should radically change how you interact with your stress.
Absolutely.
The walls aren't permanent. They are just the current temporary shape of the clay.
It introduces a tremendous amount of psychological spaciousness into your life. When you realize the problem terrifying you isn't a solid brick wall, but rather a temporary cloud of interconnected factors, you stop slamming your head against it.
You stop seeing it as a permanent one.
Exactly. Instead, you start looking for the small factors you can slightly alter or influence to let the probability wave flow in a completely different direction.
Which brings us to a massive technological crossroads. We have ancient spiritual texts that accurately predicted the fundamental nature of quantum fields. So it raises the ultimate modern question.
Which is?
Can our newest, most advanced machine, the quantum computer, finally prove the spiritual truth mathematically? Like, can we build a piece of hardware that perfectly maps the interconnected web of Śūnyatā?
The materials we looked at dive deeply into this paradox, and the answer is a highly complex yes and no.
Okay, let's start with the yes. How does the machine map the web?
Scientifically, quantum computing is on the verge of revolutionizing our entire technological paradigm. For decades, standard computing has locked humanity into that rigid, mechanical binary worldview.
Zeros and ones.
Right. A classical computer thinks entirely in switches that are either turned off 0 or turned on 1. If a classical computer is trying to solve a maze, you have to walk down one path, hit a dead end, walk all the way back, and try the next path.
It's very linear.
But quantum computers process information using quantum bits, or qubits. Qubits operate in that fluid space of superposition. They are the spinning coin in the air. They can be a 0, a 1, or any fluid combination of both simultaneously.
So instead of walking down one path of the maze at a time, the quantum computer floods the entire maze with water, exploring every single possible path at the exact same time.
That is exactly how it works. Because it operates within that field of possibilities, a quantum computer can simulate complex atomic and molecular interactions in ways a classical computer never could.
It can perfectly map the interconnected web of relationships that Buddhism describes.
Exactly. It mathematically validates the interdependent nature of the universe.
Okay, so the hardware can finally see the interconnected web. The math checks out. So why is it a no on the spiritual side? Why can't the computer achieve enlightenment?
It all comes crashing back to the observer effect.
Oh, right. The measurement problem.
Yeah. The quantum computer works its incredible magic while it is safely held in that isolated fluid space of superposition. But eventually we need it to give us an answer we can actually read.
It has to spit out a result.
It has to output its final calculation as readable digital numbers on a screen. And the very moment it does that, the moment we look at the answer, it forces the quantum state to undergo wave function collapse.
Oh, wow.
It takes that infinite flowing web of water in the maze and squishes it violently back down into a rigid singular 0 or 1 so our human eyes can comprehend it.
The machine is forced to translate the infinite back into the finite just so we can read the dial.
Precisely. And beyond the mechanical limitation, the machine lacks the most critical element of all, subjective consciousness.
Right.
A quantum computer can mathematically process the fundamental laws of nature faster than anything in history. It can perfectly calculate the web of relationships, but it cannot feel it. Only a conscious mind can truly experience the state of Sunyata from the inside.
But wait, I have to challenge this premise.
Go for it.
If a quantum computer eventually becomes advanced enough to perfectly simulate the exact interconnected environment of the universe, down to the very last electron, isn't it basically experiencing that same reality? Why is human consciousness the ultimate bottleneck here? If the computer perfectly understands the math of emptiness, why couldn't an AI achieve enlightenment?
This raises an important question, and frankly, it is the center of one of the fiercest debates in both physics and cognitive science today.
Bet.
But the core difference lies between the act of processing information and the subjective experience of realization. Think about a digital thermometer.
Okay.
A thermometer can perfectly measure the exact temperature of a freezing room, but the thermometer itself does not feel cold. A quantum computer can calculate the exact probability of a wave function collapsing, but it has no subjective eye to let go of. Remember, the Buddhist concept of Śūnyatā is only realized when we actively release our craving and are grasping our upadana.
Ah, I see. A computer doesn't have any desires to release. It doesn't crave a specific outcome.
It has no ego to uncollapse. The profound spiritual realization of emptiness fundamentally requires a mind that knows the deep, painful weight of being attached to something and then consciously makes the difficult choice to let that attachment go. The machine is just crunching the numbers.
You can't experience the profound relief of letting go of an attachment if you never possess the emotional capacity to cling to it in the first place.
That's exactly it.
You actually need the vulnerability and the messiness of being a human being to experience the relief of the wave flowing freely again. The computer maps the territory, but consciousness is the only thing that can actually walk the path.
And that is the ultimate bridge between the science and the philosophy. Mathematics can show us the door, but subjective experience is required to walk through it.
Wow. We have covered an immense amount of ground today. Let's distill the ultimate takeaway for you from all these complex sources.
Let's do it.
Whether you find yourself leaning more toward ancient Mahayana Buddhism or you prefer the hard mathematics of quantum mechanics, the core message you should carry with you is strikingly similar. Don't quickly fixate on or attach yourself to the things you see.
Right.
The universe you live in is not a cold, rigid machine made of isolated, permanent parts. Deep down, beneath the immediate surface of what we can see, touch, and measure, absolutely everything is interconnected. It is constantly flowing, changing, and it is absolutely full of limitless, unsculpted possibilities.
And it is vital to remember that neither quantum physics nor ancient Eastern philosophy has to be an intimidating academic subject completely disconnected from your daily life.
You don't have to be a genius to use this.
No, you do not need a PhD in particle physics or a monk's robe to apply this. These are simply frameworks. And they are frameworks specifically designed to help you live your life with less friction.
Yeah.
When you finally stop demanding that the unpredictable world around you act as a solid, unchanging one or an absolute zero, you will inevitably suffer much less.
You just let the wave be a wave. Which leaves us with a final, slightly provocative thought that I want you to mull over today, something to explore long after you finish listening to this deep dive.
Oh, this is a good one.
We've established that our individual minds act as the quantum observer. We are the ones uniquely collapsing fluid, potential reality into fixed states of suffering or joy, entirely based on our own personal cravings and historical attachments.
Right.
So what happens when two people with completely different attachments, completely different past traumas, and different desires observe the exact same quantum moment in a relationship or a conflict?
That is where it gets messy.
If two people are arguing in a kitchen and they both mentally collapse the reality of that argument in totally different conflicting ways, whose reality actually collapses and whose reality wins out?
That's a fascinating problem.
It really makes you wonder how much of the conflict in our daily lives is just two different observers fiercely fighting over a reality that was never actually solid to begin with. We spend so much time and energy fighting over the zeros and ones, we completely miss the infinite possibilities hiding in between.